So I think there's been a mediocre reminder actually lately when it comes to Zebec. Now, nothing I say is financial advice, but they recently made a post kind of highlighting the Zebec super app in terms of the desktop experience. So I think it's pretty cool. And they kind of highlighted the cards when it comes to this. Again, the Zebec cards, right? But even besides that, people may be thinking, who cares about this? Now, before I get into that, I don't want to post the short clip or the montage or whatever because I don't own it, right? So I don't want to post it. But again, it's not like a montage that I've never seen before in terms of the graphics or anything. Like it's not the next Avengers movie. But yeah, besides that point though, let's skip that part and talk about why I think this is a pretty mediocre reminder. The reason why is because I think the super app is actually a top 3 accomplishment type of milestone that Zebec has done throughout the existence of the project so far. The reason why is because I think first of all is ISO 20022 compliance, right? I thought that was pretty cool. And I think the second part was like acquiring GateKnox and also Science Card UK. However, I think this is like the third. And I think that the Zebec super app is basically a way for Zebec to become more simple moving forward because Zebec has a lot of aspects. So basically through the super app, it's like a bunch of different aspects when it comes to Zebec, like the cards and payrolls and all that type of stuff. It's just a way to kind of put it all into one central location. However, people like to say, okay, why do they even bother reminding people about this? If it's so good, they don't need to remind people. Well, why not, right? If a project has achieved something pretty impressive, usually they like to show it off. It's like people who buy Ferraris, right? Or Lamborghinis, and then they go to a car show. Maybe in some cases, they want to show their car. Why not, right? They're passionate about their car. They like it. They think it's an amazing milestone. Why not? That's the way you take a look at it. Or some people buy a Nissan GTR and they keep posting pictures about it. If they're happy about it, why not, right? I feel like Zebec putting this little montage, or this short clip, I should say, kind of highlighting the super app in a sense, the desktop version in regard to the Zebec cards, it's a little bit like kind of buying a Nissan GTR and putting a bunch of pictures of it. That's the way to take a look at it. But yeah, besides that point though, I don't see why it's such a bad thing. I think it's actually pretty cool. And again, right, they're still planning to do things when it comes to the super app, like the enterprise rollout, which they're supposedly planning to do by the end of this month in March. So again, they're still doing things in my opinion. But yeah, we'll wait and see when it comes to Zebec. However, a main point of contention when it comes to Zebec is basically a lot of people telling me that it's kind of alarming in their opinion that ZBCN is still around 50 times lower than 10 cents. But the thing is, if I just ignore 10 cents, I don't need ZBCN to hypothetically go to 10 cents for me to quote unquote go to Sizzler. Maybe for 10 cents, it's a different type of celebration, maybe. But if let's say ZBCN could just go to points back in, let's say, either, right? August of 2025, which the market cap was around 500 million, or let's say it goes back to June of 2025, which again, the market cap was around 500 million, or let's say maybe even October of 2025, which the market cap was around 450 million. Let's just say it went to either of those three scenarios, right? Either October, June, or let's say August of 2025. Just goes back to that. I'm already going to Applebee's. That's the way you take a look at it. I'm already going to Red Lobster at that point. Just because ZBCN has a market cap of around 200 million. So if let's say 200 million goes back to 500, again, we're around 2.5 times lower than that, right? If it goes back to around a 450 million market cap, which we saw, back in October of 2025, we're over 2 times lower than that though. When I take a look at some other projects out there, sure, their pullback has been pretty massive, but some of the more established projects out there didn't really have like such a drastic pullback when compared to something like ZBCN, in which case may kind of represent ZBCN in not such a good way because people are saying, the pullback, it's so extensive. Like, well, how is that a good thing? Well, for exiting, of course, it's not a good thing for me. But in terms of dollar cost averaging and assuming maybe hypothetically in a make-believe scenario, if it could maybe relive some of the glory days from back then and just, maybe go back to those points, I'm not going to complain about anything if it does that. Because I wouldn't even really consider like 2025 the hypothetical maybe ceiling of ZBCN anyways, because I don't even think ZBCN experienced an altcoin season in 2025, let alone a bunch of other altcoins, in my opinion. Does anyone think 2025 was a altcoin season by any means? I don't think so, actually, when it comes to this space overall. So ZBCN has already proven at least twice in 2025 that it was able to reach around a 500 million market cap without an altcoin season. We've seen that, right? We saw it in June, and then we saw it also in August. But back in October, it almost reached 500 million, but it didn't. But I'm just saying, we saw it, right? Again, June, August, I saw ZBCN reach a market cap of over $500 million slightly. So it's not like ZBCN has to do anything it's never done before. I'm like, no, I mean, if it just goes to like 500 million in terms of market cap, I'm going to be dancing. That's the way to take a look at it. Probably, dancing at Red Lobster. That's just kind of my mindset. However, at the same time, I just don't want to give up, personally. I am not telling anyone to do anything, right? This is just my mindset, but I just still like what's going on when it comes to Zebec. And I don't think Zebec is the most revolutionary project of all time. I don't think about it that way, but it doesn't need to, right? I mean, if it could just maintain, being the 135th ranked project within this space in terms of market cap heading into a hypothetical altcoin season, why would I complain? That's just kind of my mindset. I'm not saying do better. I'm not saying it has to exceed this ranking. No, if it could just maintain this heading into an altcoin season, maybe if we do ever even see an altcoin season, we'll wait and see, but I'm just saying, if it could just maintain that, again, I'm not going to complain about anything. It's like, for instance, if let's say someone's a football player, right? Just getting into the NFL, that's already a celebration time right there for a lot of people. Do they need to become the next Tom Brady? Probably not, right? That's a pretty intense achievement right there. It's not that easy. So as long as it could just, in this case, my analogy is, if ZBCN could just maintain that position, 135th in the world as of right now in terms of market cap within this space, heading into a hypothetical altcoin season, I'm not going to complain. That's just the way you take a look at it. Zebec during this cycle is never going to become the most popular project in my opinion. There's no way. I just don't think so. However, it doesn't need to, right? It's like, for instance, does the next tennis player who wants to become a professional, do they need to become better than Rafael Nadal? Probably not, right? In every single case. Maybe some want to, but it's not necessary in my opinion. I mean, there's many tennis players out there who've never achieved the Rafael Nadal type of level of success, and they're still full-time tennis players anyways. It's not a requirement to be that good in order to be having that as a sustainable career. So yeah, besides that point though, when it comes to Zebec, I don't need it to become the best, and I don't expect it to become the best either. I mean, even within its own space, the competition is kind of stiff. There's not that many, but there are some stiff competition, like for instance, XDC, Stellar, Ripple. I take a look at Onyx. Even overtaking like XLM or XDC, that's pretty difficult. Not that easy, but it doesn't need to do that, right? Just because it's relatively speaking kind of at a low market cap anyways. It's around 200 million in terms of market cap right now. It doesn't need to become the best of all time. If it just goes back to like a 500 million market cap, again, we're around 2.5 times lower than that. Going to like 1 cent only when it comes to ZBCN, we're around 5 times lower than that. And at 1 cent, actually, the market cap would be slightly under $1 billion, considering the current circulating supply of ZBCN. So yeah, it doesn't need revolutionary numbers, maybe, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't mind holding, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, I'll be sure to make more updates when it comes to ZBCN. So hopefully I'll stay tuned for that. I just want to say thank you for watching. And yeah, again, hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. It's Bellini the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.